Hello, hello, super expanders. How are you? We are in for a wild, fun, amazing ride today. I have someone so special, so amazing, and I can't wait to share him with you. His name is Alex Mischka. I'm so excited to have you here. And I want to just give you a little bit of context. We know each other from a hypnobreathwork certification. And you guys just wait. He is just divine. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here to chat with me today.
Corey, it's wonderful to see you again. I'm so grateful that you've invited me onto your new baby, your new podcast, the Expanders podcast. And yeah, it's really good to see you again. You're shining, you're glowing at the moment. I can see the look of like inspiration in your eyes. There's the light in your eyes, and it's great to be part of your new project. And just see you again after the class we had. That was some expansive stuff we went through together. So yeah,
Oh
thanks for
my,
having me on.
so good. See, I told you he's amazing, right? I think I'm just gonna sit here and let him say all the nice things to me all day. Forget about the podcast.
Hey, we're charmers. Well, there's a charmer in both of us. It's the way we
Yeah.
are, right?
So, I just like to go completely deep on the first question because there's just really no other way to be.
Hmm.
So we met in a hypno breathwork certification where I was absolutely cracked so wide open unexpectedly from the pretty much the moment we kicked off the class, and you were there and like such a witness, such a
Hmm.
powerful energy inside of that whole entire experience, which is why I'm so excited to have this conversation and share it with the Super Expander audience. So if you could just, I don't know, go dive right in and tell everybody who you are, like at your core, who is Alex?
That's a beautiful question to start with. And thank you for the invitation. And yeah, thanks for your reveal about the hypnobreathwork training. It really did crack us all wide open. And I think to be in presence with leaders such as yourself and all of the other women and men there was a deeply transformative experience for me. I felt like I was in the most amazing company of mixed characters. And I think that leads to my answer is like, who am I at my core? I'm a social, playful, curious creature that is fascinated by human connection and how we connect on a deeper level, and especially in the realms of intimacy and sexuality. My I'm Libra Sun. I have other elements in my chart, but that's a very relational sign. And I'm also a projector in the field of human design. So I'm always picking up on people's vibes and energy. And it took me until my late 30s to realize that actually my dharma was to work with people and to work with helping people map out and chart their inner landscapes of how they relate to themselves and how they relate to the world and each other. But if I could really simplify it, I'm just fascinated by sex and relationships.
I told you it's going to be a juicy conversation.
yeah, yeah. And also really fascinated by expansion and personal transformation and growth. That's like the inner magician in me. And I know that's a huge part of your life as well, and the thrust of this podcast. So we can get
Oh. Yes. Something that you just said there sticks out to me though, because I feel like they all interconnect. The mapping out of how we relate to other people linked up with intimacy and sexuality and just like this whole transformation process. I don't think you can have one without the other, right?
right. Well said. You've nailed it. Yeah, you've nailed it completely. They're like overlapping circles. It's like a Venn diagram. And
Yes.
yeah,
So all of those things are just like widespreading so deep. How was your own interest in that and evolution and learning just about yourself in that way? share how that led to guiding others to
Yeah, it's a good.
uncover all of those things for themselves.
Yeah, it's like there were two paths that were converging. My life was a bit of a mess in my 20s. It was quite rock and roll, but there was a lot of chaos, and I felt quite lost. I had no idea who I really was. And I had some great encounters, but most of my relationships were quite chaotic. Like there was always just confused. I was quite confused a lot of the time about what was actually happening. And I think I got to a point in my early 30s after a particularly painful breakup when I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm done not knowing what's going on here. I've got to fix this. I think it was a sense of desperation. And at the same time, that parallel path of like, okay, well, you've got to figure out all of your stuff that's going on inside and master your reality, because you're nowhere near your potential yet. Like you've got so much latent skills, and there's so much more you could do with your life. So it was a mixture of personal transformation and going on my own hero's journey and fixing the struggle of relating. And both those paths kind of aligned together, I think. And then I got really deeply into self-development work and like magic and manifestation and how that works. As this at the same time as I was trying to figure out how to relate better.
It's almost kind of like a Pandora's box in the best possible way.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Yeah, it was a mess.
So when you said, I've had enough, I'm tired of this, what I was just hearing was there were some patterns that were showing up and repeating themselves. Was I feeling that correctly?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
So the journey of self-discovery, I find this so fascinating because I think all of us in this sort of like personal development, self-growth, like spirituality, consciousness, all of it. I think that there's this driving force of needing to teach what we need to learn.
Mm,
And sometimes it's the easiest way is to start bringing others along on your journey, almost building this like our own personal tribe, right? Like, come learn
yeah,
with me so that if you can
yeah.
put people around you who are interested in expansion and growth, it just makes the whole entire journey much more exciting, much more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the tribe. I mean, we're tribe now. We're part of the same tribe. Just being in the breathwork certification with you and the other women and a few other men and Francesca, it blew things wide open for me. Like I've made so many connections out of the connections I have with you guys, and so that's part of the extended tribe. And I loved what you said initially about we kind of struggle so that we can become really good at helping other people with their own struggle. You know, it's kind of like the path of, I guess, in some ways, the wounded healer. Like we gotta go through a lot of pain before we go, right, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure out how to get up the pole.
Absolutely right. It builds so much trust, right? When you're trying to educate, inform, bring people along and roll them in this vision, it's really hard if you haven't felt what they've felt, if you haven't experienced some sort of hardship. And I think every human being is experienced hardship in some capacity, but I've never encountered anyone who has achieved greatness that has not had a struggle that was paired right alongside it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so true. The best mentors and facilitators and people that I've learned from that I've met, their life stories were insane. Like some of the stuff they've been through was quite mind blowing, you know. And they carry an edge with them. The people that have really had to struggle, really, they have an extra edge. You can feel it quite quickly, and it's good to be around people like that, I think.
So I'm excited to chat with you about masculine and feminine energy and like all of
Mm.
the intimacy aspects. So I'm actually currently reading right now. I'm reading The Way of the Superior Man.
Yeah, that was the game changer for me. That was the book that really, I think, it opened everything up. And it was after a particularly painful breakup that I was like, what the hell is going on? And then obviously the heavens just it floated down from the sky, that book. It sparked the whole revolution in the Western world's understanding or how polarity works inside us and inside a relationship. So yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah. So give us like a mini, a condensed lesson. If you could break it down for anyone listening who's like, I don't know about this masculine and feminine energies, please teach me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just condense the most complex. No, it's beautiful because it's not.
You're like, wait, I
it's
didn't know you were going to do this to me. You just gave me the biggest task ever. And you want me to do this? Hold on. Let me start the stopwatch right now. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, it's a beautiful subject. I love talking about it. I mean, I'm just a beginner and a student in this realm because it's so vast. My teacher, John Wyland, is the man I think that most people can relate to. He's trained with Data for 10 years and is become the kind of the most prominent face of carrying that lineage to the next generations. And he's updated it with his own teachings. So I would absolutely recommend, if anyone's interested, go and check out John Wyland because he is incredible. But to briefly explain what the book is about and what polarity is, it appears that in our reality, we have these energetic forces that exist within us that are the two poles of either yin or yang or masculine or feminine, or, there's many terms for these energies, but they move through us. And especially when we find ourselves in relationship with the opposite sex, it's not really specific to gender, but when you find yourself in relationship with anyone, whatever your sexual persuasion is, these forces will appear, and they're very powerful. They have a huge effect on the way we operate. And there are distinct laws or distinct patterns that appear for the masculine, and there are distinct patterns that appear for the feminine. And if we can learn to dance with those energies, those magnetics, amazing things can happen in your life and your relationships. And if you can't read that language, if you don't know that it's there, I think we tend to stumble quite a lot in our connections because we don't understand how to speak the language or how to see the pattern for what it is.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you where I am in the book, and maybe you'll remember. So I was actually closed the book last night on this chapter, and I was like, yes. It was a chapter on how you're not supposed to ask your woman to not test you more. And the last little piece of the paragraph he was talking about how the man ran home and had made $1 million, and he wanted to share with his wife. And she says to him, but did you bring home the milk? And he said, no, babe, I made $1 million. And she's like, I know, but I asked you to bring home milk like 3 times. He's like, babe, we could buy the whole dairy farm. And instead of getting mad and flustered, the response should be playful and to sweep her off of her feet and say, of course, I will go and get you the milk. And I was like, yes. But to explain it even just a little bit more, the explanation was, and that's the part that I really found so fascinating, was the explanation being that was the woman looking for him to still be secure in his love for her and not look for validation for the money that he made, and almost the flipping that if he was looking for validation on the money, it was almost like still in a childlike sense of seeking out approval like you would from a mother. And so there was still this very juvenile piece inside of the man that needed to ascend into a mature adult man.
Yeah, it's really that I love the fact you've picked that paragraph because it's quite a hot topic right now. Is the nature of a feminine test, and what a magical thing it actually is when it's a healthy test, and why women need to consistently test their partners or to test their men just to see where they're at, to see what their responses are, to see how grounded they are, to see what their values are in the moment. And also, like, I think there's a great line in that book about, our previous successes or our previous achievements. They don't really matter in the moment. What matters in the moment is our integrity. If he said he was going to get the milk, did he get the milk? And the money is not really that important. What matters is his integrity. Did he keep his word?
Did he keep his word? And I have full body chills because integrity is like, it's literally my top core value.
Yeah, one of mine as well. Yeah, high five, sister, to that, because it's a big one, right? It's a big one.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I last night I had my mind blown a little bit. And it's funny because as I was reading the book, the first couple of chapters, I kept thinking I wasn't getting it. I was like, am
Mm.
I not paying attention? Do I need to go back and like reread this book? What is going on? And then finally last night, as I finished that chapter, I was like, like, okay, I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to get it.
Hallelujah! It's a great feeling. I think everyone has that when they first read the book. It's beautifully written, and it's quite simple, but the complex things to get your head around. It is deep. It's simple but
Yeah.
deep. It's like a paradox, But yeah, it is. It's timeless. There's timeless truth in there that both men and women really relate to. I think it's quite an achievement. I don't know who David trained with, but I'd love to find out, because you have to wonder, where does this stuff come from? But it just
Yeah.
feels true. The truth just feels different, right? You hear it and you read it, and you're like, whoa, there it is.
Yes, this deep grasping. And so, a big insight I had, which I'd love for you to kind of expand on,
Mm,
is how that particular even piece of it directly connects to intimacy. Like I have an inkling and understanding, but it's just this unenduring knowing of true love and
mm.
true trust and truly being safe. And it's, I think today, especially, and maybe this is why there's so much conversation about it, is that there's especially for women in a lot of places, there's not a feeling of safety. And if you don't have that space in your relationship with your intimate
Mm.
partner, you're constantly in a state of feeling, it's kind of like a fight or flight always, right?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for pointing this out. It's a huge part of this. If we look at the global kind of stage and the global state of connection, and people are hungry. People are really hungry. Women, especially, are hungry for safety, and for men they can trust. And men are hungry for women that can trust them. They want to feel acknowledged. They want to feel appreciated, and we want to have that dance where all of us we're all seen for our qualities, but we have that magic, that fire, that juice, that zest that comes from polarized play. It comes from the woman feeling safe enough to surrender. It comes from the man knowing how to create that surrender from her, because he's grounded, because he's a force of nature, and so is she. That timeless dance never goes away, and I think we're all hungry for it, and we're
Yeah, I
hungry
mean,
for
I
it.
can just, as you describe it, it's like, ooh, that feels spicy.
Mm, yeah, yum.
So, okay, now I'm getting more and more interested. I feel like we could just sit here and talk about this all day. As you have explored these realms, there has to have been people that have expanded you in ways and called you up, super expanders in your life, in
Mm.
your career, in your purpose. I'd love to hear a little more about who they have been, who they
Yeah,
are.
yeah. So I've had a few amazing mentors, both men and women, and I'd also say that my relationships were big expanders. Even when they came crashing down, they were big expanders, because it's when sometimes people enter into your life to put the spotlight on your shadows and your pain, your trauma. All your stuff's going to come up as soon as you get into a relationship, right? So it's like a sacred container that will fast track you to the things that you need to work on. I could talk about one of those relationships, but before I do, I would say that my mentors and my huge expanders over the years have been, um, definitely David Daida and John Wineland. Um, Chris Bale, he's another amazing Irish energy worker, and he does a lot of work on polarity, but it's more from the field of qigong, and the way he speaks about it is extremely powerful. So I'd recommend him without hesitation. Um, and then I've had quite a lot of female mentors that I've been following, because there's I think Sophie Josefina, she's very powerful. Nadia Munla, she's another very powerful embodiment coach. So, and then people like Francesca, these people who are synthesists, they bridge modalities together. I think that's been wonderful for me as a student in this world, to see these amazing coaches that can, and mentors that can bridge different stuff together and turn it into something new, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that too, because a lot of times it it makes it more powerful. It also takes this like short amount of time that we all seem to have and
Mm.
creates this potent experience in a
Mm.
shorter duration, which then just opens up this like new level of growth that can happen at such a more rapid rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes people come along that just they crystallize something for you. Like I think a huge expander was, do you know of Lacey Phillips? And to
Oh
be
yeah, to be
yeah,
magnetic. I love her.
yeah, she really bridged worlds to me, because I love ritual magic and I love the art of manifestation and visioning, and the the act of your willpower kind of punching holes in reality, using magical processes. But what I love about what she did is she pulled it down into the world of like subconscious reprogramming, shadow work, and reparenting our inner children, and she made it this very practical formula that was really grounded in like neuroscience and that kind of field. So that was a huge breakthrough for me, discovering that.
Yes, the subconscious mind. Goodness.
Oh, OMG, that stuff would be crazy.
All right. So now I'm sitting on the edge of the seat. I want to hear about this other super expander. I want to hear about this relationship that expanded you. And I love the fact that you actually went in and we're talking even just when we first started dabbling and talking about super expanders and mentioned that sometimes even they were the relationships that came crashing down, because I don't think that we talk about enough that we do have people that come into our lives that can sometimes really feel like chaos. It can really feel like it could have been some sort of unfortunate experience that we might have had if we allow ourselves to perceive it that way. But when we walk away having learned something about ourselves, learned something about the world around us or the other person, it's powerful.
Yeah, that's you described that so beautifully. There is, yeah, we tend to sometimes only think that, oh, the most amazing insights could only come from the best connections, but actually the ones that we get railroaded by sometimes have the deepest gifts for us, you know. And it's interesting. I'd been calling in conscious partnership for a while, and true to form, a massive test arrived in my lap, and I didn't realize it was meant to be a huge test. I thought it was like, oh, it's all here. It is. Here's the relationship I've been, working towards, and it crumbled quite chaotically and violently quite quickly. And within the chaos, I got to get in touch with my deepest wound, which is an old abandonment. I think everyone has a version of that. But in getting in touch with that, I had to really look at like what is it? Why is it there? Like how do I have a better relationship with it? And that led me to really deepening my understanding of my attachment, dynamic, and my triggers, and how to be with my pain and how to self-regulate. And it just opened up. I think it must have times by about a factor of 100 my personal development and my understanding of how relationships work. And what most of us are kind of struggling with is that we just don't understand these patterns. Most people don't know how to move through them. So it was a huge up leveling.
So how did you navigate that? Was it, you know, journaling, meditation? What was your path to growth through that?
Yeah, great question. A lot of journaling, a lot of meditation, a lot of breath work. I even hired a coach to try and plot and chart and map through what had happened after picking up the pieces. In fact, a couple of coaches I work with, and it just became really clear. And I think after a few months of processing the grief and then moving through like the experiential learning, and then really embodying the practice, like daily ritual, like doing the practices daily, like to ground it into the body. Because you can read about something, you can read a book on yoga, doesn't mean that you know how to do the yoga moves. And I think the daily practice and actually really moving and embodying what I was learning, I began to see some pretty big shifts in my life. And I think the next time this pattern appears, because it will, my response will be completely different to it.
It'll be a test, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. And that's the power that we have. Is it's we all we have is our power to respond instead of react.
So, do you have any like a tip for someone if they're in a place and they start to recognize a pattern, how they can just even bring acknowledgement to try to respond without, I mean, obviously they need to come and work with you and coach like with you deeper, but just like a little mini breakthrough tip, like a little
Yeah.
sampling of the magic that you could bring to that. Is that, am I asking like a too tall? This is too tall of a ask.
No, it's great. I love questions like this because it forces a very succinct answer. And I think the first thing that came to my mind is, you know, all of our reactivity, generally, it's quite, it can put a lot of pressure on a connection. So if anyone out there is listening and they're facing a problem that feels familiar, I would invite them to set aside some time to really sit with whatever that pain is. If you feel like picking up a phone and sending a message to your beloved, or if you feel like doing anything, I would say throw the fucking phone out the window and see if you can sit with your discomfort and just feel it. Just be with it for an hour, whatever it might be, and you might get an interesting answer from that point.
Now that lands big for me. And I'll tell you why. Because I used to have a very hard time sitting with others in their pain. If they were crying, I would have a very compelling, strong desire to intercede, either to try to make them stop crying, like, how can I help you, what can I do for you, or
Mm.
it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And what I started to realize, it was not actually my issue with them experiencing pain. It was like, it was in me, it was something that I had to deal with, because I had, like, I didn't want to cry, and so I wanted them to stop crying, because I was feeling the, I guess, like the empathy bubble up inside of me, seeing someone else go through something and I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful reveal. Thank you for revealing that. And as soon as you started telling a story, I got the image of there are different child archetypes that we play out, and then it's that role of the fixer. It's like and it exists inside all of us. We can't be still with another person because it's igniting lots of stuff inside of us, and we respond in that way that, like, and it's a very masculine thing as well to do that. Men do this all the time. Oh, I'll fix it. What do you need to let's figure out a way to fix it. I've got the tools. And generally the partner just wants someone that can hear them and be witness
Yeah.
to them. So yeah,
Yes,
I
it
hear you
makes
on
you
that.
feel, like, in that context, it does make you feel a little bit helpless, and feeling helpless to not help someone else isn't, I'm much better at it now, but it wasn't
Mm.
always a good feeling. And it's a
Mm.
funny thing, because it actually blew my mind when, not too long ago, actually, I think it was maybe like a year ago, someone had explained to me how mothering is actually a masculine energy.
Interesting. It's really interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
kind of broke down. I was like, how could that even possibly be? But by the end of it, I was like, I was completely convinced. I get it. I mean, obviously, I think there's like dynamics inside, obviously, a mother that's both also feminine as well. But the act
Yeah.
of mothering is dominantly a male, it's the masculine energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how it works. There's all of these interesting kind of tandem paradoxes that exist inside, like the mother wound or the father wound, and how we relate to these different wounds and what trajectories they are. But yeah, there's a bit of that in all of us. And so I'd always encourage myself to see where it's coming out.
So this now has me curious. We were talking about super expanders and this masculine and feminine energies inside. If what does it look like for like a client coming to you to work on something, an experience of growth? What is a journey? I'm sure it looks different for everyone, but like a little snapshot of what that might look like for someone.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I speak to a lot of men and women that are going through, they've either found themselves in partnership and they're like, oh shit, it's all coming up. I don't want to sabotage this connection and I don't really know how to move past these patterns. Or I'll meet people that have been searching for connection for a long time and they feel like they're blocked in places that somehow they're being denied their connection because they want to move through their own personal transformation process. And there are a few pillars that usually appear within both processes and working with both clients. The first one is to figure out their story. Like what is their general story? How do they get here? And everyone's story is unique, right? Everyone has their own hero's journey and everyone has their own, history and past and series of relational woundings and everything that goes right back to childhood. We don't go too deep into the therapeutic aspect because it's just vast. But once we can pinpoint someone's story, you can usually pick out a few key things that we can work on. And it could be anything from how they inhabit themselves in their sense of embodiment, how they express themselves through their voice and through their creativity, how their judgment systems work, how their shadows work, where they're not stepping up, fear of shame, just shadow work 101, and figuring out their basic kind of attachment styles and dynamics and how that is generally the most obvious pattern that they find themselves playing out. And then we use, obviously now I've got hypnobreathwork as an amazing tool to take people deeper into their dynamics and help them envision a new way of relating. And yeah, I like doing 6 sessions with a client just to kind of have a soft landing and a soft introduction to their story. And there are always a few major breakthroughs where they just suddenly get themselves like, oh, this is how I operate. This is why this is happening. And it's that real aha moment. It's like that eureka moment. Like, okay, I get it now. Now I can see my blueprint, my map. Yeah.
Yeah. So self-awareness, all of a sudden the layers just start falling away.
Yeah, that's it. It's like dusting down an old French painting and it's covered in, like the dust of time, and you just wipe it away and suddenly things become much clearer.
I love that. I love that.
Mm.
So in all of this, because all this is such deep and intricate work, when you wake up in the morning and you think of like this, the feeling that you're going for in your life, like what is your North Star, the thing that you're consistently, constantly reaching for?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. Mm. Again, it's that feeling of human connection, like actually being out there in the world, surrounded by people like yourself, having these conversations. I get up for this. Like this like lights me up. Like when you invited me to come on this podcast, like I was grinning from ear to ear that day because
Oh,
because I feel connected to tribe. Like it's like I think my environment is. I didn't realize how important my environment is to me, whether it's the climate, the sunshine, nature, but also the people that light me up. And I think I get up for that feeling of connection, that feeling of connecting to other people and exploring. That is my North Star. Yeah.
beautiful. And it makes so much sense too, because you're living that out in your purpose and in what you do. So that is a testament of just alignment and the pure magic that I know that you bring into this world for every person that has the genuine opportunity to be in your energy and in your world.
Oh, wow, thanks. That's a beautiful compliment. I'm gonna have to hand that right back at you. You've got
Oh,
amazing energy, and your voice is like it's the perfect radio voice. But it's really interesting. I remember you from the course. And it's funny, there were a few people that caught my eye on that course that I was really drawn to. And, they're all people that I've carried on communication with and exploring with afterwards. And it's so funny how our instinct and our curiosity hones in on people. And then suddenly you're having more connections with them. So yeah, that's magic to me. So thank you for more of the magic.
That is magic. And it is so funny. I mean, it's just, that's your intuition, right? All of a sudden you just,
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting in intuition in that way, because I think when you hone in on energies like that, it almost, it's not that the other people aren't there, but in a lot of ways, it's like they're not, if that makes sense, which sounds dismissive. And I don't mean it by anyone that was in our certification, but do you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden there's like a huge bubbling up that rises to the top, and everything else kind of, the color dims a little bit in a way in that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting how instinct is the kind of the gut thing that protects you, but intuition, and this is a big part of our training, is like intuition it's your soul's kind of voice beyond your egos. And so things naturally become more shiny and vibrant. And you're like, oh, that you can't not take your eyes off that person or the thing. And once you've seen it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
It's
yeah.
amazing. So, what? It's time for us to open up your super expander moment, to be the super expander for, I mean, the whole entire podcast is truly your super expander moment for the audience. But in particular, I would love for you to share just either some kind of encouragement you might have given to your younger self, or just a little nugget of wisdom. I think that this is like truly the gift that we get to give to others, is to take our experiences. And while we didn't get to give it to our younger self, we can share that with someone else, collapse time for them, and open up space for massive growth. So is there something that you would tell your younger self?
It's really beautiful to toy with this concept because we do get to time travel. I would say, I would say to my younger self, keep doing what you're doing. It's gonna be okay. You've got this. You've got this. Because I think one of the things that I missed in my early 20s was I just needed someone to put their arm on my shoulder or their hand on my shoulder and say, yeah, I've got your back. So I think I just whisper back in time and say, don't worry, man, I've got your back. It's going to be all
Oh, I get chills on that. That's so good. I also love that you said that, because when I asked this question of someone the other day, they're like, I wouldn't go back and change anything. And I was like, no, that's not the point of the question. It's literally, is there wisdom that you can share with the world? And I feel like that in particular is such a powerful one. I think it's one, it's one we know, because it's the same with our worries, right? You have
right.
something and you worry and you worry and you worry, and you find out that this thing that you worried about, most times, like
Yeah.
99.9% of the time, does not come to reality or fruition. And you spent a tremendous amount of energy and just pain lingering there in that worry. And then
Yeah.
while you're grateful that it didn't come to fruition, you're like, dang, why did I waste so much of my precious life?
It's so true what you say. It's so true. We get so fixated, and it's so much energy to be. Again, it's that feeling of like, where is it, or whether it's something beautiful that you're calling in, or something painful that you're tensing up against. That all that energy we expend on it you could power a small city on that. So yeah, I love what you're saying. Just to to cut that
Absolutely.
short circuit that fuse.
Such beautiful words of wisdom. So I'm so grateful that you're here. You took the time out to share your beautiful energy, your wisdom, all of it. How can the audience get in touch with you? What's the best way to get into your world?
Yeah, at the moment, the best way to get in contact with me is via Instagram, just at Alex Mischka on Instagram. I have a website that is going live in a few days. That'll be alexmischka.com. And yeah, either Instagram or the website, just keeping it simple for now.
That's the best way. So as always, you can find those in the show notes. we will have his website and his Instagram handle in there. You should slide over, follow Alex, say hello, and just learn from him all of his wisdom, and he likes to connect. So there you have
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Send me a message. We can have a great conversation and we can explore. I'm open to everyone and everything.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you.
Corey, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's really wonderful to be in contact with your energy again and hear your voice. That voice is just, it's so seductive. And it's so exciting being on your amazing podcast. I think this is going to go from strength to strength. And yeah, I'm just really excited for you and everything you're creating.
I received that. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.